Hey, hello and welcome everyone to another episode of Everything and Nothing. Okay, so this week I have been preparing and working on several projects and several things. I don't know. Many people, we all do different things, right? So I've been focusing and staying focused and doing and trying new things and just looking at all of the things that I want to do. There's a reason why this is called Everything and Nothing. I am a bit um I do believe I came here to live life, like really live life, like to enjoy it to the fullest, as best as I can. And for me, part of that means just going all out, like really, really, really enjoying life. And for that, I'm constantly exploring and experiencing different things and trying different things and embracing all of that moves, through life. I'm getting better at embracing the challenging times and the times that feel a little bit um, sad, gray, blue, all the colors. See, I even describe emotions with colors. But anyway, one of my story is as a result of that, sometimes it feels like I'm going really, really fast, and sometimes it feels like it's going really, really slow. And I'm playing around with time. And that's for another topic. Let me write that down so I don't forget. Um, Playing with time. And what does that mean? Because I have played with time and yeah, that's for another topic. But point of my story is when I look at all of the things that I want to do and all of the things that I'm doing and how sometimes it feels like it's going really slow and sometimes it feels like it's going really fast, it's important for me to find a balance, to find a moment where it feels like a grounding moment, a base moment. And because I have this, I choose to connect with nature as a way to stay guided and grounded and feel supported. In the last 2 days, I have had a turtle come up toward my house. So, right across my house, I have this marshy area where everything lives. And what I mean by that is I have frogs, I have toads, I have ducks, I have geese, I have swans, I have snakes, and I have a bunch of birds. And apparently, I have turtles. So, yeah, yesterday and the day before, I went out to walk my dogs. And as I went out to walk the dogs, I see coming toward my house a big turtle. And on the first day, I saw the turtle pointing toward my house. And when I looked to my other side, funny enough, I was looking at my right side was the turtle. I looked to my left, and there's a rabbit. So a lot of people define the left and the right side as feminine and masculine energies. So as far as I understand and what I know, usually the right side is your masculine energy and the left is your feminine energy. So I was seeing, these differences between this turtle and this rabbit, and I stood there and I took that in. I of course acknowledged the animals. I enjoy that feeling of seeing. A lot of things went through my mind. One of the things that went through my mind was, like who wins the race? Is it the rabbit or I know it's called a hare, which is Hare. I know with my pronunciation, sometimes it sounds like something else. But no, I'm talking about the rabbit and the turtle in the race, right? Um, I don't even know the details of that story, but I remember that story from I don't know when. But that crossed my mind. The other thing that crossed my mind was seeing how they were both sitting there just watching. And the other thing that crossed my mind was how funny it is that I'm looking at something that moves really fast and something that moves really slow. Because on Sunday, I don't know if it was that same rabbit, but there was a rabbit that showed up to the property to the point that I opened the door to let my dogs out and they bolted out. The bunny was too fast. The dogs were too fast. I was too slow. And my two of my dogs run after the bunny. So just watching all of that, unfold, it reminded me of that on 2 days ago on Wednesday. No, that must have been Tuesday. So Tuesday. So anyway, so there I was on Tuesday watching, observing this turtle and this rabbit and watching these thoughts move through my mind, all the different understandings and all the different examples that I have of these two different animals. And then yesterday, Wednesday, I went out again to walk. So every day I go out to walk my dog. So yesterday I went out in the morning and there it is. There's a turtle again. And it's just sitting there looking at toward my house and just kind of chilling, doing its thing. And then afterwards, I went to the gym to do my workout. And as I walked into the space, the first thing that caught my attention, and I've been to this space many times. I mean, not hundreds, but enough times to notice details. And I hadn't noticed this one. When I walked literally to the building, I looked up and there was a phrase and it said, "Your direction is more important than your speed." And it's really, really fascinating that that came up with a combination of the turtle and the bunny. But also yesterday morning, before I saw that, as I was driving toward the gym, I sent a message to one of my friends and I was telling her, because we check in on each other almost every day and, say good morning, how are you doing? How are you feeling? Et cetera, et cetera. And I told her, I said, I'm feeling a bit misaligned, not in a bad way, more from a place of, I feel like my brain is really slow right now. Like I understand the things I need to do and I understand exactly where I'm going and I know exactly where I'm at. And today I'm feeling just a little slow. She replied with, "Hey, you should write something about that." And I was like, "Hey, there's a lot of wisdom in that. I just don't quite understand it because my brain was not quite clicking there." And then, of course, I get to the gym, I look up, and there's this reminder of, the direction being more important than the speed. And so here I am sharing about that because, as you know, this is what I do. It's about everything and nothing. And I didn't do anything with it right away. I posted something on my social media. Posted something as a reminder, even on my LinkedIn, because I do believe the purpose of this podcast is to remind us that everything is connected. Everything, we're connected in every way. And one of the biggest things that I work with clients is when they come in asking me we need work-life balance. And I've been saying this for definitely the last 10 years. There is no work-life balance. These are not two separate things. There's life and work happens to be part of life. So if we're always trying to, in my opinion, if we're always trying to define work over here and life over here, it becomes really, really, really dysfunctional and it becomes very painful and it becomes uncomfortable because it's almost like someone trying to be one thing in life and one thing in work. Like work has its own thing. But as a human being, we are who we are. And we show up the way we show up in different places. Sometimes we want to show up differently in different situations. And that can cause a lot of misalignment, a lot of disconnection within ourselves. So then as a result of that, it leads into a disconnection with the people that we're trying to connect with or people that we're trying to relate with. And that's another episode that I can go in detail about it, the work life and the disconnection that we have. A simple example of that is I know a lot of people who, when I did executive coaching constantly, because for a while, that's all I did was executive coaching. And I would hear and see the executives come in and they would struggle and they were stressed because they would say, my team expects this from me. So at work, I have to be this person, and at work, I have to show up like this, and I have to be this type of personality and be direct and be, more serious and have the answers for everything. And then when I go home with my kids and my family, I want to be a dad to my kids. But I have been at work all day that I come home and all I can do is unintentionally start treating them like they are my employees. Start treating my kids like they're all of a sudden a team. And of course that creates a challenging situation. Or when I'm at home on the weekends, then I go back to work on Monday and it's a dread because now I have to be a boss again. And, I can't be, playful. I can't be fun and relaxing because that's how I am at home. I can't be that. And it's like, I used to tell them, well, now we're struggling a lot because you're trying to be two different things. Like, who are you? And I've always said it. When we have clarity on our core values, when we have clarity on who we are, we can be the same person authentically in almost any situation. And no, I'm not saying you go to work and you start tickling your employees or, wrestling because you want to be like their dad. No. However, the core value of it, which is respect or fun, you can bring that into play. You can bring that into action. You can activate that with your teams and they'll probably appreciate it more. They'll probably feel more connection with you as a leader, as a manager. So anyway, that's an example of why that's challenging. And I'll totally do another episode and I'll take longer time to talk about that, about how that matters and how that plays out and why that matters. Another example is people in community roles who are very, very nice in front of their communities, when they show up to deliver their workshops, they're super, super nice because they're talking about the importance of being connected to nature, the importance of being connected to a skill, very basic example for many years was the doctors where they show up, not all, but a few doctors that would show up and tell their patients to eat healthy. But then you look at the doctor and they're not looking very healthy themselves. It's the same thing here. Someone that shows up and talks about, serenity and clarity and always walking in balance. But then behind doors with their family in their everyday life, they don't have that much balance. They're struggling. They're angry. They lose their patience. They yell at people. They're disrespectful to people. Again, that's another example of people wanting to have this, well, this is my purpose, but then this is my life. It's like, well, it's all one. So anyway, having said that, this morning I woke up and I was reflecting on that. I was reflecting on that, why does that matter? Why does direction matter more than speed sometimes? And it got me thinking about how everything I say, because this is how I started, where I went here. I was telling you about this podcast. The point of this podcast is, even though I choose sometimes topics that are, one could say those are more like everyday things, and this is more like business like, and this is more everything. How we do one thing is how we do everything. So every topic that I share here has a connection to everything that we do. The way it works is when we're open enough to see and explore and be curious to see, how does that apply to the areas of my life? How does that apply to my physical experiences? How does that apply to my relationships? How does that apply to work or my career? How does that apply to purpose? How does that apply? Those are, the areas of life. And so when I was thinking about it this morning, like, oh, I could do a topic on that. It inspired and it sparked something. So it inspired doing a series. So for the next 5 days, or it's going to be next week, I'm going to do every day, I'm going to release an episode where I'm going to talk about why this matters, how direction, communication, leadership, awareness is all connected. and how all of those pieces support the phrase of direction is more important than speed. Having that clarity. So yesterday, when I was in the evening, when I decided to put those posts on my social media, I was reflecting on what that meant for me. And what that meant for me was that even though it may seem like, oh, everything's moving so slow right now, it doesn't matter. What matters is, am I focused? Am I still on the right path? Am I still showing up the way I want to show up? Am I still being authentic to myself? Am I still being respectful to my commitment to myself? That's what matters, because sometimes, yes, sometimes my body does need rest. Sometimes, yes, sometimes my brain needs a break. Sometimes I need to unplug from everything and just allow the brain to go a little blank. And that's okay. And sometimes I have super duper extra energy, especially as a woman, because many of us know that as a woman, depending on our cycle, our moon time cycle, if we want to call it that, our menstruation cycle, if we want to call it that, it's the same thing. We all have different levels. Our hormones will be different and we'll feel differently at different times. Sometimes we'll have a surge of energy and we just feel like we can take on the world, while at other times, depending on where we are and how our body responds to that and where we are even in our journey personally, we might feel like we just want to lay down, rest, sleep, and the brain just wants to shut down. So being aware of all of those things helps understand the process and helps enjoy life even more. I can only speak from a woman's perspective because that's what I am this time around. But I would love to bring one of my guy friends and have a conversation about this. So I'll have to bring, well, I don't have to, but I want to. I want to bring one of the guys. I'll see which one is courageous enough to jump on the mic with me. But yeah, I was really reflecting on that. So it's interesting how that those sequences of events, the turtles, rabbit, the phrase on that wall created this or sparked all of these feelings and emotions and all of this thoughts and reflections. And it's one of the reasons why I love life so much. It's such an interesting experience. It's so much fun. There's so much out there. There's just so much out there that we can actually play with. And I say play with because sometimes we take life too seriously. And in my experience, the times that I have taken life too serious, it just becomes painful and heavy and dreadful, and it hurts. So I like to see it. I like to see my life more as I'm just playing. I'm just having fun, doing the best that I can, and I'm gonna have fun, and I'm gonna do the best that I can to enjoy the moments, being aware that sometimes it's a little, bumpy, kind of like when we're kids playing around, and sometimes we trip and fall, and we get up, and it's like, ow, right? It hurts depending on what happens. But point of the story is, there's so much beauty around. There's so much fun, so much joy, so much to explore, so much to just experience and experience it in different ways. We can see the same thing because, of course, then we get into perspectives. We can see the same thing and we experience it in different ways, depending even ourselves. We can see the same thing twice or three times or multiple times. And depending on how we're feeling and depending on all of the other factors around us, it'll feel different each time. And that's pretty fascinating. So I was giving myself some grace yesterday when at the evening, I got home and I stayed really focused. I want to launch the innovation book in Spanish next week. And I've been doing the formatting. And I sat down and I took it slow. I sat down, and that is the task it feels slow because it's, patience, detail oriented. And I was grateful that yesterday, all the energy I had was to just chill and do something that did not require a lot. And for me, that did not require a lot. It just required looking at the thing, looking at the documents, making sure that all the paragraphs are a certain way. And if I do it with patience, like the turtle reminds me, it'll feel like it's moving slow, but it's actually making a lot of progress. I made a lot of progress. I'm almost done with it. And and I feel I would have missed all of that had I not had the support. I feel like I would have missed all of that had I not had the support of seeing the turtles and the rabbits and the wording on the wall. So for me, that's another reminder of how everything's connected, how everything in the world is out there to send me reminders and send me little hints, little tips, you know, little moments of, hey, just a reminder, or pay attention. And it was just fascinating. So all of these things, all of these songs and animals and feelings and signs, some of us call them signs, some of them call them hints, some of them call them, different things. Doesn't matter what the name is. The point is, it's almost like their purpose is to help us stay on track. That's why it's so important to check in on, do we know where we're going? Like, I know where I'm going. I know exactly where I'm going. How I'm going to get there, I'm not exactly sure because everything's constantly changing. But what I do know is my direction. I know where I'm headed. And sometimes it'll feel like I'm moving really fast and it's moving really flowy and it's just kind of like, whew. Sometimes it feels like, whoa, I just have to hit the brakes, or the brakes just go on without me noticing. I just feel the slowness. I don't know if that's a word, but if it isn't, now I made it. And everything just slows down. And even those moments are there for a reason. They're helpful. And that applies, in my opinion, in life, in all aspects of life. That applies in relationships, that applies at work, that applies with how you communicate with your team, that applies with the project that you're working on, that applies with the goals that you have, whether it's, your physical appearance or losing weight. It applies in our spiritual journeys. I'm naming all of these things as those are the most typical areas of life that I hear. When I do life coaching or team coaching, I ask people, what are the areas of life that we want to focus on? Or what are the areas in this project we want to focus on? And we just map them out. And it's usually, purpose. Why are we doing this? In life is usually physical. Do we look okay? Do I feel okay? Mental well-being, psychological. So all of these areas are part of life. Work, profession, career. So all of these things that I just said apply, in my opinion, to all of these areas. And when they show up, it's an invitation to really look at how are we doing in these sections, in these areas? Are we making the most of it? What are the reminders? Because as many of you know, many of us know, there is a school of thought of, the universe has my back. And maybe that's the way that it's trying to have your back, to communicate, to say, yo, slow down a bit. Hey, you're doing amazing. Anyway, that's the conversation for today. Really, it fascinates me. It fascinates me, and I'm grateful and I'm happy that I made the commitment to have this space, to create this space of everything and nothing, where I can share these thoughts and have these conversations. And I always envision that when I'm saying all of this, of course you're listening. When I'm saying that, you're not listening, but I always envision that when I'm recording them, there is someone out there listening. I mean, here I have my dogs, but part of my story is I envision this dialogue because I have it within myself when I say these thoughts out loud. Every time I say something, it sparks something else in my mind, and then I, you know, move through that thread and then spin it around there and say, well, what does that mean? What does it do there? How does that apply here? Oh, now I see that. And I like to envision that that's what's happening when you're listening. And when you're listening, there's a part of you going, yeah, or interesting, or I don't really think so. But even when you say you don't really think so, it helps you solidify what you do think. What the opposite of what I just said solidifies what, your perspective. And yeah, and I love that I have this space. So I just want to say thank you to all of you that listen. Thank you for being open. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for your support. And yeah, I'll keep speaking until I'll just keep going. I enjoy it. I have fun. And it feels beautiful. My thoughts feel acknowledged. The voice feels appreciated because it has a place. It has like a specific place where it belongs. And it's in this space that I created called Everything and Nothing. Even that, as I share in other episodes, when this vision came to me, I didn't took action on it right away. Because this came to me definitely, for sure, 3 years ago. But it wasn't about the speed, it was about the direction. And I have continued to be steady in my path, in my direction, to keep showing up to where I still did it. I still got it going. It's still happening. And I'm grateful. So, what are some of the things that you're doing that sometimes you feel like, oh, I should have done that. I could have done that. I would have done that. Is it still part of your direction? Is it still something that you see? Is it still in your map? Is it still in your field of vision? Does it still feel like that's something that's part of your experience, your life, your purpose? And if it does, don't focus so much on the speed. Focus more on the direction. Keep going. Just keep going. Okay. That feels about complete. Yeah, that feels complete. I'll keep you posted about the next ones, the series that I'm going to do. And that one, I'll make it easier. I'll make it very specific to work. I will. I'll make it very specific to work. And I'll just use specific examples of how that applies to work. We're going to talk about teams. So stay tuned for that. But until then, I wish you an amazing rest of your day. I hope you have a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful rest of your day. Whenever you're listening, wherever you're listening. And I wish you an amazing bunch of experiences that just make life easier to enjoy. Yeah. All right. Until next time. That's it. Bye.